Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the second weekend of the Black Ops 6 beta, and with it, I have played quite a bit. And one thing that I have learned over my time playing is really how to be good at this game. And unlike other Call of Duty games, there's a lot that you can do and change, not only in your movement, playstyle, what weapons you're using, perks, but just in the mentality of how you play Black Ops 6 that can greatly improve you. Just to explain to you what I mean by this, in the first weekend of the Black Ops 6 beta, I had about a 1.8 to 1.9 kill death ratio. I just did a 2.5 hour live stream, and my kill death just in that stream alone was around a 4 kill death for all the games that I played during that time. So I have very quickly improved at this game, and I have a list of 10 things that can help you improve that quickly as well. Literally, it's just like a couple settings, things to use in game, a couple things that you can do to improve as a player, and it will really, really help you. So let's dive into the game and I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So let's just start by talking about the game as a whole. First of all, there are no big maps in Black Ops 6. There's medium and there's small maps. Essentially, the 6v6 core maps are medium and the strike maps are small. I find it much more difficult to do extremely well on the small maps, in other words, the face-off or the strike maps, than it is to do on the core maps. That being said, though, they're both very small and you can play as quickly as you want really on either of them. But again, the faster that you play, the better you have to be to raise your kill death ratio. So the question is, what are those things that you can do to make it easier on yourself to play better? Let's start off by talking about weapons. So first off, I want to just go over weapons. There are certain weapons that you are going to do better or worse with, but the biggest thing here is just use the easy weapons to get kills with. So I think all of the assault rifles are probably pretty good for you to use. That being said, I do think the AK-74 is the best of all of them. SMG wise, the Tonto is rather difficult to use and you have to use some specific attachments on it. The Jackal got nerfed. It was by far the best weapon in the game, but now honestly, I think the C9 for an SMG is probably the best in class, but the Jackal handling wise is probably a little bit easier to use, so you kind of have to be a better player to use the C9. Shotguns, I recommend avoiding if you're just trying to improve at the game. LMGs, again, movement mechanics are a little bit difficult. Both of the marksman rifles are incredibly good, but you have to be a bit better of a player to use them. But literally both of these are some of my favorite weapons in the game, severely underrated. Sniper rifles, again, more difficult to use, but if you're using one, I would use the LR762. And that pretty much puts it to an end. The other thing I can give you is I prefer the 9mm over the GS45. It's just faster fire rate, so therefore more follow-up bullets. Now, as far as attachments on your weapons, what to use, what I've noticed on almost all of my weapons is I want one sprint to fire attachment and one recoil attachment. Everything else is just kind of up to you. The one other thing that I will say is a lot of people are using a rapid fire as kind of a crutch attachment. It's not as good as you may think. It doesn't reduce your time to kill that much, and it adds quite a bit of recoil. So when you do put it on, don't believe what it is saying. It does add more recoil. If it feels like there's too much recoil, it's probably because of that attachment. But yes, I find sprint to fire as well as a little bit of recoil control go a long way with these weapons. As far as perks goes, I think this is the best perk setup, and I will explain why as I go through it. First of all, if you're an average player, I think you are going to most benefit from recon as a combat specialty for a couple of reasons. First of all, you're going to get a HUD indicator every single time someone looks at you and you don't see them on screen. This is going to help you learn spawns very quickly, because if someone's looking at you from another direction, their entire team is probably in that direction. So it's going to help you greatly. Yes, technically, I think Enforcer is a better perk. However, really being indicated when someone's looking at you is going to help you greatly, and stim shots essentially do the exact same thing that Enforcer does. And yes, we're going to talk about stim shots in a little bit here. Now, as far as your perks goes, the one that I like to use are Ghost. First things first, everyone is using UAVs right now. Ghost is a very good perk right now. In your second perk, you are going to use Dexterity. I was using Tracker in beta weekend 1, but I don't think you need Tracker whatsoever. Vigilance is just there as kind of like your third blue perk to get it. Now, it also counteracts Sleeper Agent, which more and more people are using this weekend. When the full game launches, this will probably be a perk that I change. And then Ninja for Silent Footsteps, that's pretty self-explanatory. With the beta being updated this weekend, I do find that footsteps are louder, so there you go, there's a counteraction for it. Now, Dexterity is the one that you might be surprised by. I really like Dexterity. This is reduced weapon motion while jumping, sliding, and diving, and on top of that, you take less fall damage. But Dexterity, the good thing about it is your weapon's not shaking all over the place if you're moving like crazy, and that's another thing that you're going to have to do to be good at Black Ops 6, your movement. So the easiest way to understand movement in Black Ops 6 is you always want to be doing it, but not necessarily in the way that you may think. You see, the time to kill is a little bit longer in Black Ops 6, which means if you're one person, even against two people, it is much more difficult to win a gunfight than other Call of Duty games like Modern Warfare 3 or Modern Warfare 2. So because of this, what I find most easily improves my kill death and the way that I use movement is once I kill someone, I use my movement to exit that situation. So in other words, if I peek around the corner, I will use a slide or a dive to get behind cover or leave that situation. That way, if someone else comes, I have an opportunity to reload, use a stim, or just have your health come back slowly. Now, getting used to this movement is hard, but I can help you with one particular setting that I have talked about before on the channel. You need to put on tactical sprint assist. This makes it so that every single time you move, you are immediately tactical sprinting. What this does is it allows you to constantly be able to slide or dive in any direction without having to push the extra button of sprinting. It makes this sort of movement, Omni movement specifically, 100% easier. I can't stress enough how much you need to do this. If you're struggling with Omni movement, this is the thing that will help you. Now, the slide behavior is another thing that you can change. I recommend tap to slide, especially if you are new to the movement. Hybrid also works, but I think it's a little bit more difficult to use, but once you master it, it will be a little bit better. So one of those two options, try them both. Whatever works better for you works better for you. Now, the next tip that I can give you, and this is hugely important, your tactical right now needs to be stims. I'm assuming that these might get slightly nerfed for the full launch of the game, but these are a crutch for me. I use them on every single class. When you take damage, you use a stim, immediately your health goes back up to 100, and with that, you can engage in another gunfight. They're great for being aggressive, or if you just need to hop behind cover and get back into the fight. This allows you to have more health more frequently, get more kills, and do better in game. You only get 2 of these, but if you use the assault pack, every single time you throw the assault pack down, it gives you 1 more. And essentially, by the time you need more, you'll be able to throw down another assault pack, and essentially you can have an infinite amount of these and always be able to heal yourself and get back into the fight. Now, moving into some other things that you can change very quickly. First of all, reading the minimap. The minimap works different in Black Ops 6 than it has in any other Call of Duty game. I learned this very, very quickly, but when you're looking at your minimap, sometimes you're going to see red dots that are solid red dots. Other times they are hollow and black in the middle. When they are a solid red dot, that means that person is on the same level of a building as you. However, if they are not solid, they are black in the middle, or hollow if you will, they are on a different level than you. Unlike other games, it doesn't say whether they are up or down, so you kind of have to use audio or other cues to figure out which level of a building that they're on. However, multiplayer, most of the time, there's only 2 stories, so it's pretty easy to figure out. On top of that, use a square minimap. Why use a square minimap? It actually shows you more area on the minimap where you can see enemies, so immediately that's going to make it easier for you to see people. The reason why you don't see that in my gameplay is because it sometimes reverts for some reason, so we end up with a circular minimap again. Another thing that I have noticed while playing this game is sometimes your teammates just disappear on the minimap. Like, they are there, but they are not on the minimap, or it doesn't show you what direction that they are in. This is a bug. I don't know why it's doing that. And my next tip is using your teammates on the minimap. So sometimes this is a little difficult to do. However, If you look at the minimap and you see all of your teammates in one direction, if they are not dying or shooting, you will know that the enemies are not in that direction. They are spawning opposite of your teammates. So use your teammates' locations to figure out the enemy's spawns. Now, this is a tip that I always give when we talk about Call of Duty. One thing that you probably want to do, especially if you're not as good of a player, is stick to the outskirts of a map. The reason why I say that is because if you're in the middle of a map, people can be around you in 360 degrees. If you are in the corner of a map, say it's exactly a rectangle, people can only be around you in 90 degrees. If you are just along the edge of the map, they can be around you in 180 degrees. So just by sticking to the edge of a map, immediately you reduce the amount of area where enemies can be by 180 degrees, which makes it way easier to decide where you are going to aim, especially the higher of a field of view that you play on. Now, you don't have to play on a higher field of view, but it is going to help you see more people. I play on 110 FOV. And that tip is mainly to improve your kill death ratio. However, you're playing a beta, your stats don't carry forward to the full launch of the game. You may not care about this one. So if you just want to improve, the final tip that I can give you is multipliers work different in this game. So what do I mean by that? First of all, headshot multipliers on most weapons are not going to make a difference for time to kill. They will for higher damage weapons, or if you're using the CHF barrel, which increases the headshot damage. Otherwise, not so much. Also, you do the same amount of damage to a toe that you do to a chest. It's one of the only Call of Duty games, at least to my knowledge, to actually do that. And I think the reason for that is omni movement. With people moving around faster, they don't want you to have to be pinpoint precise, which actually may be a reason for you to play on a little bit higher of a sensitivity, because you don't have to be as accurate. You essentially just have to hit an enemy. And with the omni movement, with people moving around even faster in this game, it is going to be even more beneficial for you to be playing on a higher sensitivity, because you're more easily going to be able to track them. So just as an example, from Modern Warfare 3 to Black Ops 6, my sensitivity was 7 horizontal and 6 vertical, whereas now it is 8 horizontal and 7 vertical. I just bumped it up by 1 point on each. Now, I could also go into much more depth with little intricate things that you could do to get better, raise your kill death ratio and things like that, but I think we will save those for the full launch of the game. This is more so for people who are maybe getting into it with the open beta and just want to improve a little bit more quickly to maybe make the game feel a little bit better, or just do a little bit better before the full launch of the game. So if these things helped you out, I would really love it if you could hit that like button, subscribe, turn notifications on, all of that kind of jazz. I keep you guys informed on everything Call of Duty, whether it be tips and tricks or the story of the game. So make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, until next time, peace.
We are reaching for the stars.